After watching both the films back to back, I was really surprised to notice how their story structure is so different with having the same story. Let's break it down. Hello guys, I'm Nona Prince and this is a comparative study between the original and the remake of Drishyam 2. Now the point of the video is not to tell you which is a better film. No, that's very subjective. Everyone have their own preferences and their own liking and disliking. Objective of this video is to understand the differences between the films, to know why they made the changes and if those changes work or not. There will be spoilers in this video, so you have been warned. Now the first big major difference between both of them is that the original came out on OTT platform, whereas the remake came out in theaters. And that actually changes a lot of things. That is also reflected in the running time of both the films. The original is 155 minutes long, whereas the remake is only 140 minutes. And the difference of 15 minutes is a lot. Also, one more thing. The original was designed to be a family drama. That's how they marketed it. And the film is actually a family drama until the last 30 minutes, where it suddenly becomes a thriller and the twist happens. And it is a subversion of our expectations. The film is a slow burn. It actually becomes a police procedural. And the film wants us to think that, it's the end of George Kutty. He'll finally get caught. And then we get the twist. Whereas the remake takes a very different approach. You can tell that just from the trailer itself. It is a full-on thriller. They don't want to give you any resting time. They quickly want to get to the point and give you the thrill. That's their main objective. And they do that really well. So, both the films have a same story, but they give you different experience. And depending on what you prefer, you can choose either one of them. Now, before getting into the specific differences, let's talk about the treatment of both the films. Now, the original, as I said, is a family drama. It's a slow burn. They spend a lot of time on the family dynamics. There's a whole plot of the mother and the younger daughter and the conflict between them. She has a birthday party at home, her friends come in, which is totally cut out from the remake. In the original, we spend a lot of time on the trauma this family went through. It's not really all hunky-dory for them, as it seems to be from the outside. It feels very realistic. There are a lot of nuances to it. George Kutty now has a theater. There are a lot of talks about it, which movie is coming, which is not. A lot of references to Malayalam cinema. And all of this is compressed and put in the remake because they don't want to waste time on it. They want to keep the edit very crisp. There's actually one dialogue for each of those sequences in the remake, and we just go on with it. Now, the character of the wife has a big role to play in the story. She is getting paranoid, and because of that, the truth comes out of her mouth and is recorded. Now, the Malayalam one spends a lot of time. I mean, a lot of time and a lot of scenes to develop that paranoia. Whereas again, the remake condenses it, and within few moments, we are done with it. We understand the point. We move on. And again, it depends on the viewer. Do you want to see all of it? What is causing her, to act like this? Or do you just want to see one or two scenes and you get the point and you move on? We see her conflict with George Kutty, how it's building up, how she's getting lonely every day. She's getting more stressed. There's a dedicated song sequence for her, which is talking about her loneliness. She's getting haunting dreams that they'll be caught. Now, in the original Drishyam series, they've actually established an extended family of the wife, which is not present at all in the remake. And in Drishyam 2, we see that they are also leaving from Kerala. So she's getting more lonely and more alone. And by the end, that build-up really works well. Now, even without spending a lot of time on the paranoia of the wife, it works in the remake because we have a scene of the IG character visiting the house when Vijay is not at home. And that sequence is actually 6 minutes long and it's outstanding. It is the most thrilling scene in the whole film. I've seen the movie twice in the theaters and both times there was pin drop silence in the theater. And the moment the scene gets over, everyone's like, and you could hear that. Now, the new neighbors of the family. Again, in the original, we have more scenes with them. We get to know what they do. There's a lot of scenes outside of the house. They are going around. The friendship between the two ladies is shown very well. And they talk a lot between them. And then comes, the points where she reveals the truth. And the remake only has those sequences. Other things are said in the dialogue that, they have been really helpful. She's a really good friend to me. That's it. The original has a lot of side characters and side plot. And I feel like they could have been, trimmed out, could have been streamlined more. But again, in their approach, they want to set up a whole world and what's happening around the George Kutty's character. So it all helps in that. Now, with the main character, George Kutty and Vijay Salgaonkar, one difference I found was George Kutty was, more involved in what was happening around him. There were moments it felt like he's carefree. And also, the drinking thing with him actually is mentioned to be a flaw. The wife talks about it, how after that incident he has started drinking so much. Whereas in the remake, we don't get to that. Yeah, he's just drinking. That's it. We don't spend more time why he's drinking, when he started, and all of that. And clearly in comparison the remake feels like rushed, and because of that a lot of nuances are not there. But again, what they're trying to go for, it works for them. Now the trauma the elder daughter is going through again is shown much better in the original, and it's actually reflected in her personality now. Whereas again it's rushed in the remake and feels more like a plot point than a characteristic. Now it's established in both the films that she gets fits, but in the original there's actually a switch next to her bed to call everyone that she's getting with. None of that is in the remake. I would say I like the scene in the remake, how she gets fits. I think that looked much better and more interesting. Now the mother of the boy who was killed, the ex-IG, in both films she's shown in that vision when she gets fits, but in the original the character comes into the story at 1 hour 35 minutes, the time then more than half of film is over. Whereas in the remake, because it's taboo, I've talked about it before also, she's present from the start. We have dedicated scenes for her and she's involved through the investigation. Whereas in the original she comes in when she has to get that money. Now the original was shot during the lockdown, so they had some limitations, whereas the remake had a lot of freedom and a lot of budget. But I would say the production design of the original is much better, it's more realistic, and the remake it feels like it's a Bollywood set. Especially the house, it looks so good, there's no flaw in it. Other than that, there are few scenes in the original which are not that good, and that again comes to the budget and the limitations they had. Now both films do a really good job to give exposition with dialogues without making it feel like an exposition dump. Now because the original takes its time, so it feels more natural, but watching the remake second time I could understand, oh, that's the dialogue to make us understand what has happened. Like now that he has a theater, that he's making a movie, it's all given in dialogues. Now coming to the big and major change, which is IG, in original played by Murli Gopi and in the remake played by Akshay Khanna. Now this is very interesting because in the original the investigation is still going on. We keep getting hints of it that police is still looking into the case. Whereas in the remake, until the reveal of the IG, we don't know that the case is still going on and they're still looking into it. And a lot of plans they make after that how to find out. We already get to know that police is doing that through that time until we get the reveal. Now I have to say in the original the reveal of the IG is so climatic in a sense. Nothing. It's just a scene where someone shows up at a house, hey, welcome, how are you, and the IG walks out, and then we get to know that the IG is using his friend's son because he studies in the same school where George Kutty's younger daughter studying, and they are friends, and he's trying to find out from her what has happened. So that's a whole big plot they did. I was not a big fan of it honestly, but okay, they have totally cut that out in the remake. Now in the remake the interval happens at the 50th minute mark, and the first half is actually shorter than the second half, but actually doesn't feel like that because the second half contains all the thrills. So at the 50th minute mark we get the reveal of the neighbors. We get Akshay Khanna is the IG now, and he's gonna look into the case and he's ready to take him down, and we cut to Vijay Salgaonkar drunk and he cannot even get up, and that's the interval point. Now in the original it happens at 1 hour 5 minutes, and again the reveal to show that the neighbors are actually police is done so naturally, like the IG is walking in and then a shot of both of them in police uniform and it's in slow-mo, and then it hits you, oh shit, they are actually police, and it happens so late in the film. Now after that there's a 9-minute stretch of the IG explaining the whole case to all the people there. 9 minutes long, it's just him delivering dialogues. You can call exposition. Oh, he has done this in the past, that has happened, now what we'll be doing. It's all, the plan is laid out. And again in the remake it's all condensed. There's quick editing of whatever he's saying to do. We see that happening by the other officers, and then they're reporting back to him what was the result of it. So again they have condensed it too much. Now having seen the remake, it feels like 9 minutes is so long, it's so boring, them just talking. But first time watching the film, I actually thought it became a police procedural, and that's actually the later half of the film. From that point there's definitely a lot of talking, but it's all about how to solve the case, each step we go through. And again it's a slow burn. We are building up to, oh, George Kutty is gonna get caught, and even when they find out where the body is, we get a lot of sequences of them planning and the operations happening, how to get the body and all of it. It's a big chunk, which is again done very quickly in the remake. Now coming to a major character who actually saw him putting the body in the police station, and both the films actually start with them, but there's a very big difference. In the original we actually see him, he's running from someone, and on the way he just had a glimpse of George Kutty leaving the police station at that time, and after a few hours he's caught by the police. But in the remake we actually get who he killed, what he was doing. He actually had gone to deliver drugs and he wanted out from it, but the guy didn't accept it, so he took his money, ran away. They got into a fight and the other guy died by his hand, and at that time only the police reached and he ran away. And then he reached near the police station, he saw Vijay Salgaonkar doing something in that room, and then he hides somewhere where he sees Vijay Salgaonkar coming out of it, looking around and then going in his jeep. which is a lot extra than the original. And then a day or two later, he is caught by the police at his own house when he goes to meet his wife. Now this difference is interesting because in the original, it feels there's a mystery to this character. Who was that? Why was that there? How will it come into play? And in Remake, we get to know more about the character and what's happening with him. And the major arc for this character is that, it's a parallel to George Kutti. He's also doing this to save his family. So he outs him and tells the police where he hid the body. Now again, in the original, they spend a lot of time on that. There's a separate motherly character who comes in and tries to explain the wife that take him in and all of that, which is again totally cut out in the remake. Now again, one more interesting thing is that when the character realizes that he has seen him coming out of the police station that night, in the original, he had heard that, there's so much money to give out his name, and he sees someone coming out of the police station and he recollects what he had seen that night. Whereas in the remake, he has heard the news about the money. He's standing outside and he sees Vijay Salgaonkar only coming out because he had gone in to talk to the police. He's coming out and he's, recollecting his memory. So I actually prefer this more. It's more interesting. Now both court scenes in the original are long. There's a lot of, banter between the advocates and the judge, which is again contains in the remake. There's a clear difference. Murli Gopi is very natural, very realistic kind of cop who wants to get this guy. Whereas Akshay Khanna's character is more larger than life. He's made more badass with some really good dialogues, which works for a commercial theater viewing. Now the interrogation scenes in the movie, I actually preferred the remake more. I like the way they shot them. Now there is one moment in the original where the mother slaps George Kutti. That again now you are making up stories. Say the truth at least now, which is not there in the remake, and I actually think it will not go with the characters because Tabbu's character is involved in it for a long time, and there's a moment where she walks in and it's like a badass moment for her, and Vijay Salgaonkar, oh, she's also here. So you don't actually need the slap moment here, and that I feel actually would break her character too. And the climax is pretty much the same in both the films with some minor changes maybe. I feel there's a lot more explanation in the original that how things are happening, whereas again the remake we rush to the main point and we're done with it. Now the remake has a monologue by Ajay Devgn at the start of the film as well as the end of the film, which is not the case at all with the original, because I feel what the monologue was trying to say, it's all in the nuances of the time we spend with the characters. There's a talk of George Kutti with the writer that is this guy correct or not, what is he doing, is he justified or not. So those moral questions are being raised, and also the film talks about the society around George Kutti, that when he was nothing back then, everyone supported him, but now that he's wealthy, he has a theater and he has a big car, everyone is against him. They all feel he only killed that kid and he's hiding it, he's a murderer, he's an evil guy. So the original explores all of those, which I would say is missing in the remake. Now the police inspector who was suspended in part 1 is not there in original at all, whereas the remake brings back Guy Tonde's character, because I think he stood out so much in the first one, so you had to bring him back. So guys, at the end, it's all about the intention of the filmmaker. The original wanted to delve more into these characters and their world and make it more like a drama until the end, whereas the remake was meant for theaters. They wanted to make it very fast paced and a thriller, and that was very clear from the film. Now I do wonder if Drishyam 2 had come out in theaters, would Jeetu Joseph would have changed the film, or when Drishyam 3 comes out and it comes out in theaters, will he make it more fast paced or again a drama? Because he has already played that card that oh, this is a family drama but there's a twist, so he cannot really play that again in Drishyam 3. So will he out and out say it's a thriller? That will be interesting to see. Now I actually done the comparison of the first two Drishyams also. If you haven't seen, you can check it out here. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button, share this video, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.